CNN asked Representative Cheney about your reporting this morning. Here's how she responded.
We have not made a decision about referrals on the committee. I think that it is absolutely the case. It's absolutely clear that what President Trump was doing, what a number of people around him were doing, that they knew it was unlawful. They did it anyway. There's not really a dispute on the committee. The committee is working in a really collaborative way to discuss these issues, as we are with all of the issues we're addressing, and we'll continue to work together to do so.
Mike, how does that square with what you're hearing from other committee members?
Well, as we laid out in the story, members of the committee are on the record providing different perspectives on whether this referral should be sent. Some think that it is something that needs to happen, that no matter what the political consequences may be for the investigation, it's an authoritative move by the committee to show what it has uncovered, and it puts the maximum pressure on the Justice Department. Others on the committee have publicly said that they think that a recent judge ruling in which a judge said it was more likely than not that Trump broke the law is more than enough for the Justice Department to know that there's enough criminality or potential criminality out there to investigate. And because of that, if the committee were to send a referral, what it would do is it would make it look like the Justice Department was conducting an investigation at the behest of a democratically controlled Congress.
Okay, so since we have continually invoked the Justice Department, any signs that they are already considering a Trump indictment?
No, we don't even have signs that the Justice Department is investigating Trump. That is the frustration of many on the left. Not only are they frustrated with that, but we have no signs of that, but they are also frustrated with the slow movement by the Justice Department on referrals that the committee has sent to the Justice Department for individuals like Mark Meadows, who had not cooperated with the committee, who had not answered all the questions that the committee had after they had been subpoenaed in this investigation. And the committee has been very vocal with their frustrations with the Justice Department about that, about the fact that while Steve Bannon has been charged with contempt of Congress, essentially for not cooperating with Congress, folks like Meadows and others who have been referred have not. Given
this tension on the committee, right, what do you think is going to break that tension? What are they waiting for? What is going to be the indicator? Who's going to move in this debate?
Well, I think what we'll see is in the coming months, the committee will continue to investigate with a goal towards putting out a report with some hearings sometime before the election. Around that time, the committee will have to make a decision about whether to send a referral. If by that point it is clear that the Justice Department is investigating Trump, there is essentially no reason for the referral to go, as the investigation has already began, and a referral carries no true legal weight. The goal of the committee will have already been met because the former president will be under investigation. If there's no indication by them whether Trump is under investigation, then the committee will really have a big decision to make about whether to make this referral. The important part to understand in sort of what's going on or where we're at now is that the committee leadership is widely convinced, as Cheney essentially says on the record, although she said no final decisions have been made, the leadership of the committee is convinced that they have uncovered enough criminality to actually make that referral, even though there is a debate about whether they should do that.
One of the biggest questions we have been following when it comes to the 1-6 committee. Michael Schmidt, thank you so much for bringing this to us.